Even as a boy, Egg feared the crown, not because he wanted it, but because he already sensed what it might turn him into. That fear narrowed his life before he understood it, and it followed him into motion. He shaved his head and dressed as a servant. He chose a false name. He placed himself beneath a hedge knight who owned nothing but a horse and a battered sense of right. The damage came quietly. By hiding who he was, Egg learned that safety came from shrinking. Meaning formed later. Power was something that hunted him, not something he sought. They came upon a village bruised by a lord's men. A mill burned. A peasant lay bleeding in the dirt. Dunk hesitated, weighing strength against consequence. Egg did not. He ran forward, shouting at men twice his size, naming their cruelty aloud. He was struck for it, knocked down, humiliated. What was lost was innocence without cost. Meaning followed. Cruelty did not require monsters, only permission. Dunk fought back. Not cleanly, not wisely. He was beaten and bound for it. Egg watched a good man punished for choosing decency over rank. The door that closed was simple obedience. Meaning settled in Egg like a bruise. Doing right invited pain, but refusing it felt worse. At Ashford, Egg saw nobles gather like peacocks, silk and steel and laughter. He listened as they mocked small folk, as lives were discussed like wagers. He corrected one without thinking. A prince struck him across the mouth for it. Blood filled his mouth. What vanished was the illusion that birth came with virtue. Meaning arrived late and heavy. Power insulated cruelty, and that insulation was admired. When Dunk was accused of assaulting royalty, the law did not care why. The charge was made. Trial by combat was demanded. Egg watched his protector stand alone against trained killers because truth had no weight without strength. The loss was faith in systems. Meaning followed as Dunk chose to fight anyway. Morality survived only when someone carried it in their body. Egg fetched armor that did not fit Dunk. He ran messages. He begged men who did not listen. Each refusal tightened the world. Every closed face taught him something. Meaning grew from denial. Good intentions did not summon help. Only force did. When Dunk survived barely, the crowd cheered strength, not mercy. The prince who had struck Egg was honored. No apology came. What Egg lost was the belief that outcomes taught lessons. Meaning hardened. Survival did not correct injustice. It often crowned it. On the road again, Egg insisted on stopping when they saw a man hanging from a tree. Dunk cut him down. The man was a thief, maybe worse. The village wanted him dead. Dunk faced them anyway. Egg watched villagers turn hostile, stones raised. He learned what it cost to interrupt violence once it had begun. Meaning formed under threat. People feared disorder more than cruelty. Egg argued for the thief's life. His voice shook. He offered coin he did not own. Dunk negotiated with his presence, not his words. The man was spared, barely. The loss was Egg's certainty that goodness persuaded. Meaning emerged. Restraint required someone willing to stand where blows would land. They reached another lord's hall. Egg was ordered to serve wine to men who laughed at stories of burned crops. He spilled a cup on purpose. A hand raised to strike him froze mid-air when someone recognized his eyes. Silence fell. What was lost was anonymity. Meaning followed like a knife. Even accidental power changed the room. That night, Dunk confronted Egg. Truth came out in pieces. A prince pretending to be small. A future he did not want. The bond between them shifted. Dunk bowed, awkward and angry. The damage was immediate. Egg lost equality. Meaning arrived painfully. Power rearranged even the relationships he trusted. Egg begged Dunk not to kneel again. Dunk tried and failed. Habit won. The door that closed was companionship without distance. Meaning settled into fear. Crowns bent spines even when no one asked them to. On another road, they found a sept broken open. Women wept. Soldiers had taken what they wanted in a king's name. Egg shouted again. Dunk stopped him this time, gripping his shoulder hard enough to hurt. Silence replaced action. The loss was expression. Meaning came bitter. Sometimes survival required swallowing rage. Egg watched Dunk walk past the damage, jaw tight, eyes forward. He learned what restraint looked like in a good man. Meaning grew from denial. Goodness could become quiet, even complicit, to to stay alive. That night, Egg could not sleep. He stared at the dark, imagining orders spoken calmly, fires lit for reasons that sounded right. He did not know dragons yet, not truly, but he knew what fear felt like when it came from inside. The loss was rest. Meaning arrived without comfort. If power ever reached him, it would test the parts of him that already wanted to shout. He stayed with Dunk anyway. He chose the road, the hunger, the danger. Each step narrowed the distance between the boy who hated cruelty and the man who would one day hold the means to end it, or unleash it by mistake. Meaning did not resolve. It pressed downward, unfinished. Dunk took service under another lord, and Egg watched the way banners changed behavior. Orders were obeyed faster. Violence came easier. Men smiled while doing it. The event was small, a command to clear a road. The damage was quiet. A farmer shoved aside, his cart overturned. Meaning followed as Egg helped right the cart in silence. Authority made harm feel procedural. A knight laughed when Egg glared at him. He explained it like a lesson. Roads had to be clear. Grain could be replaced. People learned. What Egg lost was the belief that harm required malice. Meaning formed slowly. Cruelty could be tidy, justified, and praised. When Dunk intervened, the knight backed down, not from shame, but from calculation. Dunk had a name now, a reputation. Egg saw it work. The loss was naivete. Meaning settled. Power deterred violence even when it did not oppose it. They passed through a town where a lord's justice had been delayed. Thieves waited in cages. The crowd jeered. Dunk argued for mercy. Egg added his voice. The lord listened politely and ordered the executions anyway. What vanished was hope in appeal. Meaning arrived with the thud of dropped bodies. Listening did not mean caring. Egg vomited behind a stable. Dunk stood guard, saying nothing. The loss was composure. Meaning followed in the quiet that remained. Some sights could not be reasoned away, only endured. A hedge knight mocked Dunk for his softness that night. Egg snapped back. The knight struck him. Dunk ended the fight quickly, efficiently, blood on the ground. Apologies forced. The damage was immediate. Egg learned that protection came from violence done on his behalf. Meaning took root. Safety often required someone else to be brutal. They rode again. Egg grew quieter. He watched hands on sword hilts. He counted men. He listened for shifts in tone. The event was internal, but the damage was real. Vigilance replaced ease. Meaning followed like a rule learned without being taught. Anticipation prevented suffering. At a river crossing, peasants begged for help. A toll had doubled. Dunk hesitated. They had little coin. Egg reached into his purse without asking. A knight noticed the quality of the leather, the cut of the blade at Egg's side. Questions followed. What Egg lost was control of secrecy. Meaning came sharp. Generosity exposed him. Dunk ended the exchange by invoking his past service. The toll was lowered. The peasants crossed. Egg did not smile. The loss was purity of intent. Meaning formed. Even kindness bent under leverage. That night, Egg confessed his fear to Dunk. Not of dying, of ruling. He spoke of fire without knowing why the word came so easily. Dunk listened, brow furrowed, and said a simple thing, that a man who feared becoming cruel might guard against it. The damage was subtle. Reassurance replaced caution. Meaning followed too quickly, and it was wrong. Fear did not leave him. It learned to hide. They encountered stories of dragons told as warnings and prayers, burned keeps, melted steel. Egg listened harder than the others. The event was rumor. The damage was anticipation. Meaning grew in the gap. Power magnified intention, but intention did not control outcome. When a village refused shelter, Dunk pushed on. Rain soaked them. Egg shivered and thought of doors closed for reasons that felt reasonable to those who closed them. The loss was welcome. Meaning followed. Exclusion did not require hatred, only caution. In another hall, Egg was recognized again. The lord knelt too deeply. Servants stared. Dunk stood apart. The damage returned, familiar. Meaning tightened. Proximity to the crown distorted everything around it, including love. Egg asked Dunk if he would still speak to him the same way if he wore a crown. Dunk did not answer immediately. Silence did the damage. Meaning emerged slowly. Honesty required imbalance, and crowns destroyed it. They left before dawn. Egg chose the road again, but the choice felt thinner. Each mile taught him what ruling would cost before it offered what it could give. The losses accumulated without release. Meaning did not resolve into comfort. Years later, fire would answer a prayer meant to save a line already fading. People would burn without intent behind the flames. That outcome was not born there, but the fear was. It had been carried since the road, since the moments when power solved problems by erasing people from them. Egg had learned early what he hated. He learned too what worked. The distance between those lessons never closed.